Okay, we're going to change gears a little bit now and hear from some of the members of the ODS communication team. And as you would think back about the DSA legislation, one of our mandates was to be the source of credible information on the science of dietary supplements. So we've put together a great communications team in order to talk to the public as well as our federal colleagues. And the first speaker you're going to hear from is Joyce Merkel, and she's our science and health communication consultant with the ODS, and she primarily works on dietary supplement literature databases and in the communication and promotion activities of the office. So please welcome Joyce.
Good morning. So think of me like a dietary supplement librarian. I'm a dietitian by trade, but I've worked in a number of libraries, including USDA and some universities, and I love finding stuff for people. I find it for people and I give it to you to use. So think of me as a librarian. So what I want to share today is some places to find good, credible information. And actually, I need a disclaimer. I think the first place I start is Google. What percentage of people do you think use Google as their primary search engine? 100%. Can you guess? Very good. It's actually, if you're using desktop, the latest statistic I saw was 80%. But if you're on a mobile, it's 96% use Google. So what do you think is second? Have you heard of Bing? Yeah, some of these others are gone now, you know, Internet Explorer and Navigator, they're long gone. And actually a bigger one, another big one along with Bing, although they're minor, is something called Baidu, which is more of an Asian one. I believe it comes out of China. So, but Google is the place to start, and you can find a lot of good stuff. If it's a topic you don't know about, start with Google, and it will more than likely start you getting into credible sources. All right, here we go. So I want to hit several topics today, including bibliographic, which most of you have probably done, where you can find current stuff that's ongoing, clinical trials, for example, lots of other kinds of databases that may support your research on nutrients or ingredients or methods, and then the whole list of things that you can find that's already written out there, much of it in the public domain, like a lot of our ODS stuff, so monographs and fact sheets and clinical guidelines. I have a reading resource list that's quite extensive for you that should be in the binder, so there's a lot in that you're not going to even see today. So please take a look at that. It's got some notes and some links with it. All right, and last thing we'll talk about is some alerts. So why go out and look for it when you can have it pushed right into your mailbox? All right, bibliographic, published research, peer-reviewed literature. First one, you probably all use PubMed. We're going to go through several others that may be of use that you haven't thought of. Because there's no one database that's going to give you everything. PubMed is amazing. National Library of Medicine, which you're sitting in now, this wonderful place, does a lot, but it's not the end-all, be-all. So it's always a matter of looking through a variety of places. Do you want to find a lot of stuff and then weed it out, or do you want to be very specific and risk missing? It's always an art. It's not a science of searching. So a librarian is an artist. So PubMed, you probably all know about it, through the National Libraries of Medicine. Actually, it has three parts. PubMed is very, very broad and lots of stuff, but within that is something called Medline, which those articles are actually indexed and are easier to find because of the indexing, and also they go a certain number of journals. They currently do about 5,600 journals where they index the articles, put keywords on them to help you use the mesh or the subject headings to find it. Right now in PubMed itself, there's over 26 million citations. It's a lot of literature. And then now, since the 2000s, PubMed Central is actually giving you full text. So you can find actually so much on PubMed. I want to show you just a little bit, if this will click in for me. Come here, mouse. We'll take you out to PubMed. There you go. and it's not showing me this, so I'm going to go up here. Hang on. There's a lot of stuff besides PubMed, ToxNet, ChemNet. So sometimes when we're looking at substances, ToxNet is very helpful to see if there's been anything negative with it. But if you go down, have you heard of PubMed Health? It's actually clinical guidelines, clinical effectiveness. So if you're looking for, say, ginkgo or something, rather than going to the full PubMed, you know, what are the statements? What are the organizations? What does Cochrane say? And it's a good place to search. So PubMed Health subsets PubMed to allow you to get more at what might be, what the meta-analysis and what the evidence actually says, and what somebody's willing to say about a substance. So one small thing there. All right, we'll go back to this. Something used to be called in PubMed filters, and or limits, and you had to go to another page and set all kinds of limits to search. Now they're called filters, and they're on the sidebar. So if you've not used those, it's a good way to limit those 26 million citations. And what ODS has actually done is created a filter for you to use within PubMed. You find it over on the left side. And you may have to pull up the actual subject, but there's actually a dietary supplement filter. And if you set that, it will limit PubMed, those 26 million, into a more usable subset. We've created a search string for you that already limits it. So it's one way to limit, as well as limiting for date and human and randomized controlled trials or other things that you can do with these filters, but it's a good way to narrow your search. So it's called the PubMed Dietary Supplement Subset. ODS is mandated to keep a database of dietary supplement research. And since PubMed really has 80 to 90% of the dietary supplement research, we use PubMed to then help filter it to get at this, to meet this mandate. Right now, there's about 710,000 citations in the PubMed supplements filter, but that's still better than 26 million. So if you use that filter, you can access it both from PubMed or you can access it from the ODS site. So I want to show you a little bit there. If you go to the page, and you actually want to see what this string, you know, you're looking for something really specific and you want to see if my ingredient, my botanical, my little active ingredient is in the search string, you can actually look at this search string. So anytime you activate this filter, this is a search string that was created that runs in the background. And it goes on and on and on and on. So it's done all this creation of a string for you in advance. So is there a chance it's going to miss something? Yes. Is there a chance that it's going to help you narrow it? Yes. So it's one tool that you can use. All right. NCCIH, National Complementary and Integrative Health Institute, also has a subset or a filter, and theirs is called CAM on PubMed, and you can also access that right in the same place that you can do the filters for PubMed. They do include a few things that we may not include, like acupuncture, yoga, some other things that are complementary medicines. So that has about 1,000,001 citations. But it's another tool to use. It's another search strategy. It's different than ours. So one more thing to look at. Agricola is the USDA literature database. And this one, citations only, but it can get you at some literature that you may not find in PubMed, you know, botanicals, growing things, herbals, those types of things. They also have a lot of historical data and information on the plants. So good to use, open to the public. Both PubMed and NAL, our National Agricultural Library with Agricola, have reference librarians. You can email, you can contact for help. That's what librarians do. So. AGRIS is another database that's out there. It's through the FAO, United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, a little less robust than PubMed with only about 8 million records. It's very similar to what's in PubMed. However, the reason I like AGRIS is it adds other things like theses, dissertations, conference reports, government reports that you might not find. So again, it's one more thing for your toolbox. Free, open, on the internet, easy to search. AGRIS. Okay, those were the major databases I'm aware of out there for literature. Depending on where you come from, what school or academic institution or whatever they have access to, CABI is good, Biosis. So whatever package your librarian allows you to access, definitely take advantage of that. So those were published reports, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the dietary supplement and nutrition world that's not published yet. And you may want to get access to some of that to see what other researchers are doing, what methods. So these databases are things of ongoing or maybe recently completed research. There's a couple in the US as well as some overseas. And we'll just take a quick look at those. These should tell you who's doing what, who's funding it, what does it entail, what's their time frame, so give you some of the basis of the research. NIH Reporter, housed right here on campus. It's everything that NIH is funding, and it goes back a number of years. And it's a normal database. You can pull up a topic and look to see all the studies going on. Very robust. It includes everything that NIH is doing, so it's not that narrow. So what ODS has done with a mandate based on DSHEA is to maintain a database of ongoing dietary supplement research. So the CARDS database, which is accessible from the ODS website, is federally funded dietary supplement research. It has been recently redesigned, so it has a nice interface, and it goes from the fiscal year 1999 up to 2015, and they'll be gradually adding on to all of that to keep that up and current. That looks like that, a nice, easy-to-use interface. You can access that from the ODS website. And if you have questions about it, you can contact the office, because that's where the people are that maintain it and keep it going. ClinicalTrials.gov, have you looked at that, used that? Useful, very useful. Right now it's got almost 250,000 studies in it, both US and international. You can see who's doing what, where they're at. Are they recruiting? Have they completed? Have they ceased or stopped the study? What is useful in ClinicalTrials.gov is when you're searching, you can search by the dietary supplement topic. So a few years ago, they asked us for a list of all the dietary supplements or words that they could use, and they created a way to search ClinicalTrials.gov by supplement. So again, over on the left side, you don't have to just start with the broad search. You can narrow it down and look through lists of particular supplements that you might be interested in and seeing who's doing what and where. There are a couple overseas registries. They're not as old or as robust as ClinicalTrials.gov, but they might be something to check. They do have a lot of the same studies that Clinical Trials has, but it may have others. There's one in the UK through the UK Health Services. Just started a few years ago, so it's not real large. And there's also one that is through WHO. This one's interesting. It's free to access and free to look at, but it costs the researcher or the party that's doing the trial to get it into the database. Again, it's not as large as ClinicalTrials.gov, but it's one more place to look if you're really digging for something and want all the pieces. All these links are also on your handout, as well as the copy of the slides in the binder. CRIS is the USDA ongoing research. So USDA does an awful lot, obviously, with animals and agriculture, but they do things with growing of plants and herbs and those types of things. They also do some nutrition research, so it's also one more place to look. This is primarily stuff that's done either at USDA proper or done in the research extension system across the country in different universities. So it's another place to look. And they will have all the same contact information, abstracts. They will also do progress reports. So if a study started in 2011 and it's a multi-year funding, they'll give you an update each year as to what's been done, who's published, and it's very useful that way. I would say they might need to update their interface a little bit, but. All right, so those are where you can find ongoing trials. Again, it gives you a piece of the picture that isn't maybe published yet, because you know the time between submitting an article and getting it published can be a little long. So where can you find some other information that's not necessarily published research, but will help you guide whatever project you're working on or whatever client you're trying to help? There's some other databases that are specific to ingredients or labels, those types of things. So I'll give you some of those as well. The Analytical Methods and Reference Materials database, actually Analytical Methods and Reference Materials is a project or a group or an activity within the Office of ODS, and it's to promote standardized reference methods, materials. And we do keep a database of the articles, literature, AAOC methods, and you can access those through the ODS webpage, and it maybe will get you a little faster. And some of these are in PubMed as well, but it'll get you there a little more targeted. Adulterants, methods that are being developed. So a good place to look. This new one I found this year, I hadn't seen this one last year. Traditional medicinal materials and chemical compounds in Northeast Asian traditional medicine database. So it's Korea, Japan, China. And what they've done, and it's a free open database, I believe it's housed Korea. What they've done is they've searched through the assessment and analysis of materials through PubMed, looking at the chromatography and whatever other things they can pull about assessment of it, and put it into a database. And it's just starting. There's not a lot of articles in it, only about 7,000. But if you're looking for a very specific botanical ingredient, it's one more place to search. And one of its most recent news blurbs on its page is that it's starting to add non-botanical materials. So it might even go further than just the herbals. You probably all use nutrient data analysis at some point. This comes through USDA, a very useful database. It basically forms the nutrient analysis for probably any other program you see out there, whether you're using MyFitnessPal or any kind of tracker. USDA is the gold standard of nutrient analysis, and they have ongoing updates. They keep releasing new databases, and again, it's all open and free and easy to search on their webpage. And it's also copy domain free, so if you want to go out and create your own nutrient analysis database program, you can use their data. ODS and the Nutrient Data Laboratory through USDA have partnered in something called a Dietary Supplement Ingredient Database, where they've actually taken the dietary supplements off the shelves and done the bench work, done the analysis. Now, you think that might be great as a consumer. Yeah, I'll go see what Centrum really has in it. But that isn't the purpose of this. We do so many nutrition surveys, and we want to understand the nutrition status of the American population. But a piece of that is the supplements. So what do these supplements that our survey participants reporting actually have? So part of this project is to get at what is actually in a supplement. And what's the best way for a researcher to estimate that? So if it's, 100%, is it 100% at the end of the expiration date? This is not going to, you're not going to be able to go to this and say, yeah, I want to see what Centrum has. There's no brands with this. But it's good for researchers to be able to estimate what contribution this might have in their survey work. They've done multivitamins for children and adults. They've done some prenatal stuff, some omega-3s, and they're continuing to work. Understand, this is a snapshot. When you pull something off the shelf and analyze it on that day, there's nothing to say that the manufacturer is not going to change their process, their supplier, or something the next day. But it's one more piece to make the research a bit more accurate in their estimates. It's online. You can look at it. And there are some ways for a general person to use it if you've got, a vitamin C supplement and you want to see in general how much is actually left at the end of, their expiration. You can plug that into a calculator online, but primarily for researchers. All right, zinc, iron, copper, selenium, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, kryptonite. Uh-oh. All right, dietary, this is my one joke. All right, laugh, please. Randy Glassbergen was a really good cartoonist. He passed away a couple of years ago, but he did wonderful technology and nutrition and a lot of supplement type cartoons. So if you ever Google him, you can see some of his work. And I have permission to use this from his wife and his daughter, who carry on his legacy. All right, NIH Dietary Supplement Label Database, project of ODS, and it is now got over 66,000 labels in it. About 43,000 of them are currently on market, and it has the ability to keep track of those that have gone off market, so about 20,000 are off market. Full label components of what supplements are being marketed in the US. And it's growing. We know there's more supplements out there, but it's continually being added to. But obviously, it's a process to collect these, scan them, and enter all this data. But they can be searched by all kinds of methods, includes a picture. And it's initially for researchers. We do occasionally refer the public to it. If they're looking for a certain kind, well, you can use this database to search for a brand that contains what you're looking for. There are more and more publications coming out of the data in here. You can search those in PubMed. So it's a very good wealth of data to look at. If you want to look at who's got what in omega-3s and what are their components and what are they claiming on the label. Give you a little look at what that looks like. There's always a PDF image of the data of the label. We don't make claims about, or we don't do any analysis or assessment of what the product is good or bad, or we take just what's on the label and that's what's put in there. So ODS is not assessing it or making it, because that's not part of the law, but it is a valuable resource and it's growing. There is also another label database out there now as of April 2017 called Supplement Owl. You may have heard of this through CRN. And it's being promoted mainly for regulators, retailers, and the industry, not necessarily for the consumer. There's a couple tiers to it. First one is open and free to the public, so that's great because we can actually look at it. You'll find some similar things to what is in the ODS NLM Dietary Supplement Label Database. And it's growing. Again, it just started. They started adding, I believe, in January, and they just made it public in April. But again, one more tool for the toolbox to take a look at. All right, so that's just some really random different ingredients, methods, labels that you can use. Then there's a whole list, and your reading list, sorry, it's a number of pages, but the whole last section of it has a ton. So I'm just going to go through several of them, but you've got pages and pages of potential places you can get evidence-based, credible, not fake news information about dietary supplements. And will that help you with combating somebody's mother's dog was taking this and I'm going to do it? No. Even as a dietitian, I am trained in many years. I can't get my parents to listen to me compared to their neighbor. So I don't know that there's an answer for that. But one of the things I always found when I talked to people and was giving out information, I would say, you know what? This has no agenda. We're not selling anything. We're just giving you the information. And if you can get people to think about, well, what's that person selling? It kind of helps. Just my little experience there. But one of the best things we're going to promote is the ODS Back Sheets, which you might have heard about already. Evidence-based, updated regularly, no agenda, not selling anything, just trying to give what the science says. It's growing. We're adding vitamins, minerals, herbals, botanicals. We are getting ready to roll out, I believe, sports supplements. Is that right? Yep. We rolled out multivitamins a couple of years ago. We did weight loss supplements. And I shouldn't say we. You'll be hearing from the people mainly that do them shortly, but good stuff. We do a health professional version, which gives you all the references and the links to the PubMed research. A consumer version that is great to hand out to clients and patients and health fairs, those types of things, and there's Spanish consumer versions as well. So, and these are public domain, copyright free, and you can take and use. So why reinvent the wheel when you've got this great fact sheet that you can just use? As a nutrition professor and as a nutrition educator in other parts of my life, I found these very, very useful. And in fact, still give out handouts now to my kickboxing classes. So good stuff. They still believe their neighbor, but. Health Canada has a little different system with their supplements, and as a part of that, they have some licensing and they do some oversight. They have monographs and reports online, again, reference-based, science-based, that give you more information as well. Perfectly free to access and take a look at. Natural Medicine's comprehensive database, you might have heard of that. They merged with Natural Standard, which was another similar one a couple of years ago, and now have a very nice, robust way to look at different supplements. They talk about safety, effectiveness, interactions, adverse reactions. Parts of it does have a subscription cost, but parts of it is also available online. So another good one to use, again, it's a proprietary thing, but it can have some good evidence. It can also have lead you to look at other studies, you know, what they're saying. Okay, I want to go check that study. FDA has actually an Office of Dietary Supplements now, and they are adding more and more to their website. But one of the useful things, I think, is the adverse reactions and the tainted products list. Again, it's a listing. You can click into it and look at products that may have some adulterants in it and might be of use. Okay, that was just 4 of all the monographs reports. You know, there's also Cochrane, there's also AHRQ, there's the Linus Pauling Institute out on the West Coast. Lots of good reference-based materials to take a look at. Again, you can find a lot of them through Google. The last thing I want to talk about is alerts. So you don't always have to go out and find the things. You can have them put right into your mailbox. And there's 2 that I use on a regular basis. And probably any search engine that you use, Bing or Yahoo or whatever, will do alerts for you. But as I said, Google has 80 to 90% of the market. So Google Alerts, you can go in and set it up so that once a week, it sends you whatever Google is showing on a specific topic. So I put in dietary supplements, and I put in vitamin D, and I put in, if I was curious about the dietary supplement label database, because I work in some promotion work. So when is that ever mentioned? And then once a week, I get an email of, here's who's mentioned it. Right now, I'm also following diet and autism, just to see what keeps coming out about that, or what is out in the Google world. Some of it's credible, some of it's fake. And the other thing is through PubMed or NCBI, you can set up alerts. So you create a nice search string, and you tell it once a week, go through PubMed and send me everything new that has come up through that. And that's very useful as well. So Google will look something like this. Does anybody do Google Alerts? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I have one set up for dietary supplements as well as some other topics. So Google is very, very easy to manage. And NCBI, the alerts look like this, which it shows you your search string. And it's saved there. You can go in and alter that. Anybody else use NCBI alerts? Good, there's a few of you, yeah. Free, this is a good use of your tax dollars, so use it, all right? So I was recently, over the last few years, helping Dr. Costello with an arginine search, and this is one that I just have on a regular basis. I think it was arginine in warfighters, arginine in fitness, right? So once a week, I get to see what comes back new, and then as a librarian, I don't do anything with it. If I see something good, I send it on to whoever's interest it was. So, very useful. So, and that's lots of resources that you can go out and search. But if you're still looking for something, ODS is a resource for you. We have a lot of scientists, a lot of knowledgeable people in a lot of areas. You can always email us, and we will try to find the answer or guide you to the right direction of more things you can look for. There, as you may know in dietary supplements, there's a lot of things that don't have answers, and we'll tell you that as well, that, yeah, there's not a lot of evidence there, but have you looked at this? So you can always email us. If you want, specific searching help, I'm a dietary supplement librarian, so feel free. You have my email there as well. Yeah, I think I'm done. Do you have any questions? Yes, Dr. Dwyer.
Oh, thanks, Joyce. That was really interesting. I think a resource that a lot of us forget about is some of the big European Union projects, and I wondered if you could tell me.
You're right. EFSA is amazing. Yes, European Food Standards Agency. They have, once the EU was formed, they started going through. They have really stricter rules about supplements and what can be used and not. And to be used, they require evidence and a monograph on all these. So like Health Canada, you can go search the EU, and it's EFSA, E-F-S-A, and search for monographs through them. And they have similar things like our dietary reference intakes, a little bit different than some of ours. I think the most recent one, can't remember, I was surprised there was no upper limit for something that we do an upper tolerable limit for. So a little different, but EFSA is free and open, another amazing resource. Thank you. I will add that to my reading list. Any other questions? Good. Good. Well, I encourage you to contact us, contact me, and just go out there and yeah, Google it. Thank you. And I gave you a break. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm done early. You get an extra break, maybe.